You're crazy. Put her hand down.
Stuck! It's stuck!
This is Bob's Burgers. No, really, this incredibly unsettling short is what Lauren Bouchard presented to Fox when he was pitching Bob's Burgers in 2010. Just by looking at that single clip, you probably noticed some glaringly obvious differences between it and the wholesome show we know today. But when it comes to the original concept, there's a lot more to it than meets the eye.
Get it? Meat? Ha!
Hey, Louise, that's pretty good.
I'm the smart one!
For more puns worthy of the shop next door, be sure to like this video and subscribe to Nerdstalgic. It's common knowledge now that when Bouchard set out to make Bob's Burgers, he wanted to prove that a family sitcom rooted in love, kindness, and community could succeed. After 12 years, 13 seasons, and a feature film, it's safe to say he was correct. What most people don't know is that there was another element to Bouchard's initial vision. Underneath all that positive messaging, locked safely away in the restaurant basement, was something a little more unconventional: cannibalism. Similar to the 2D animated version of The Addams Family, the Belchers were supposed to be a close-knit unit held together by their ghoulish interests. Instead of being creepy and kooky, Bob, his wife Linda, and their 3 children were going to be straight-up cannibals, which would have brought a whole new level to Bob's position as a starving artist.
What if I think of something better, which would be almost impossible not to do?
You will not think of something better because new Baconings is perfect. It's hilarious.
The plan was for the Belchers to sell human meat to their unsuspecting customers, and they were going to get it all from the funeral home next to the family restaurant. Most shockingly, Bouchard decided he wasn't going to shy away from showing all the gory details. As evidenced by the animated short, Bouchard was looking to push boundaries with this edgy twist on a traditional sitcom. He wanted to stand out from the crowd and demonstrate to the Fox executives that what he had was worth investing in. That meant that excessive blood, mutilated body parts, and gags involving the deceased were all on the table.
Everything's on the table, including on the table.
The short begins with a nauseating close-up of the meat grinder as Linda interrogates Bob over him forgetting their anniversary. What begins as a fairly standard disagreement for a married couple turns morbid when Linda starts to play with her food. Things escalate from there, and the short ends with Linda wearing a dead woman's ring, holding a pair of shoes that were plucked from cold feet, and chewing on a piece of gum Bob found in the barrel of bodies. Luckily, that queasy combination would pay off, just not in the way Bouchard expected. The loving family of adventurous carnivores definitely got the network's attention, but it wasn't appealing enough for widespread approval. In the now immortal words of Susanna Makos, "Lauren, do you want to do 100 episodes worth of cannibal jokes?" And so, with one major note to contend with, he went to work building a brand new version of his budding TV show, one without so much blood and guts. Another demo was produced wherein Tina, the Belcher's teenage daughter, was actually a boy, still played expertly by Dan Mintz.
So you're the health inspector?
Yes.
What is that? Is that like a rash?
I'm not that kind of health inspector.
This version of the show was agreeable enough to finally get the green light at Fox. Though, surprisingly, both the demo and the eventual first episode actually bear a lot of similarities to the first spooky short. And if the idea of the Belchers being cannibals sounds familiar to you, that's because the show's pilot episode, Human Flesh, borrows a lot from Bouchard's original pitch. Episode 1, which aired on January 8th in 2011, is all about the family being accused of selling human meat. Their youngest daughter Louise starts a rumor at school that they get their meat from Mort's morgue, and Hugo, the health inspector, shows up to hang a comedically defamatory sign in their window. Of course, even though a bunch of foodies show up at the end to try the alleged human flesh,
We have kind of an adventurous eaters club. We like to try new things.
the Belchers aren't really serving up corpses in this version of the show. There's no way to know for sure how actual cannibalism would have changed the tone of Bob's Burgers, though fans might have a pretty good guess. While many early jokes and concepts were decidedly off-color, the wholesome vibes were always there. Some viewers argue that the jagged edges and more vulgar humor from the early episodes is what compelled them to watch it in the first place. If Bouchard had stuck to his guns and maintained the Belchers' people-eating proclivities, it's very likely that Bob's Burgers would have kept that darker style of humor for more than 1 or 2 seasons. Out of necessity, the writers would have had to adhere to raw-tier jokes and grotesque plots. As a result, the audience of the show would be an entirely different demographic of people. Most adults with school-aged children aren't going to sit down every week with their family to watch an anthropophagus restaurateur grind up human remains in his basement. But with dark humor comes controversy, and that means the show would have found itself in boiling water more often than it already has. There's also the question of characters outside of the Belchers' immediate family. What might such a haunting secret do to Bob's friendship with his loyal customer Teddy? Considering how eager he is to please and his willingness to eat illegal horse meat, there may have been an opportunity to bring him into the enterprise. Or maybe he would have ended up as the next burger of the day.
Better cauliflower Saul burger. B- at best.
And then there's Mort, the mortician. He's been almost entirely sidelined in the more recent seasons of Bob's Burgers. If the Belchers were actual cannibals, and Mort was constantly supplying them with fresh meat, he would have certainly been a more integral part of the show. Every interaction with Linda's parents, her sister Gail, or any of the local restaurant patrons would have been tinged with the anxiety-inducing undercurrent of discovery. Similar to shows like the Santa Clarita Diet, both the Belchers and the viewers would be constantly worried that the true nature of their meals would be uncovered, which could foster a lot of potentially awkward or outright hostile relationships with characters outside of the family. We may only be able to speculate what the larger cast might have looked like if Bob's Burgers decided to keep human meat on the menu, but there's no question about how the titular character and his wife would act, since they're the stars of the original short. Between Linda's disturbingly stained apron and Bob's indifference towards being poked in the nose by the disembodied hand, you might assume the characters in the short would be far less likable than the ones we've come to know over the years. It's clear from this 2-minute-long exchange that Bob and Linda's relationship dynamic have remained constant throughout every iteration of the show. H. John Benjamin and John Roberts still play the roles of Bob and Linda respectively. Bouchard has said many times that before he even had a clear idea of what the show was going to be, he knew who he wanted to cast in it. This prompted him to write characters based around the actors' individual strengths instead of the more traditional approach of finding an actor to play a pre-written character. Not only did this make the characters feel more like real people, but it helped to keep their personalities consistent throughout every stage of development. As such, the dialogue between Linda and Bob in the short is essentially what fans have come to expect from the couple. Several lines even made it into the real pilot episode.
Yes, the date of our wedding.
Is it today?
Yes, Bob.
Today's our anniversary. Okay.
Yes, it is.
I'm sorry.
Benjamin plays the put-upon straight man with a smile, and Roberts leans into the cartoony New Jersey housewife with the perfect amount of sincerity. Their chemistry is just as obvious here with rudimentary animation and a black and white color scheme as it is in the full show. Unfortunately, we don't get a glimpse of the kids in the short, so we don't know what the nuances of their relationships might have been like. No matter what strange scenarios the kids dream up, they always include their family in their stories. Whether they're suffering from a fever dream or blowing the roof off of the school with fart sounds, the Belchers' familial affections transcend every possible eventuality. Knowing this, we can pretty confidently say even if they were much more macabre, they would still love each other and willingly spend most of their time together. And that's because the fundamental goodness and positivity of Bob's Burgers has always been a focus for its creator. If we were living in an alternate universe and had attended the tale of Sweeney Bob back in 2011, our first impressions may have been slightly skewed. Maybe some of us would have been put off by the gruesome premise, but anyone who stuck around to give it a chance would have probably been pleasantly surprised. Whether you look at Bob's Burgers' dark origins, its edgy early seasons, or its current iteration, there can be no doubt Lauren Bouchard started with a solid base. He created a family that loves each other. Not even cannibalism could change that, and that's why we're still watching it after all these years. And well, that's all we have for you today. Thanks so much for watching today's video. If you liked what you saw, be sure to hit the thumbs up and subscribe to Nerdstalgic so you don't miss out on what's next.